Alright, so this is Introduction to iOS Game Programming using Cocos2d framework. My name is Mohammad Azam, alright, and I don't have many slides actually. If you have any question, you can reach me at azamsharp@gmail.com. Twitter, just follow me at azamsharp. Agenda is this, and we also have one more. Well, I won't really go into one more hour actually after that because the session after that, the Connect session is cancelled. But if I can go and cover, I'll cover the menus also because it's a lot of things to cover, and we'll get to the menus also. All right. So let's get started. Scenes, layers, and sprite. These are the main things we need to understand. But first, what is Cocos2d? See if the internet is working over here. So Cocos2d is basically, it's a framework. It's an iPhone framework for creating games. Now you can create other business apps using it, but it's very hard to integrate the UI kit, which has a text box and slider control and the grid and all that stuff with the Cocos2d. So mainly it is used for creating iPhone games. Let's see, what are some of the famous games developed in Cocos2d? There's a game called Feed Me Oil or something, and that has been developed using Cocos2d. And this is a website, cocos2d-iphone.org. Let me see if they even have over here. So this is one of the game, Feed Me Oil, and it's a top paid apps. So you can develop pretty cool apps using Cocos2d. And they have also a page over here. Here we go. Top grossing apps for Cocos2d, and this is Tap Pet Hotel and Tap Zoo. So these are being created with Cocos2d. Also Zombie Farm. I haven't played any of those, but if you have, so you might know. But these are all created using Cocos2d framework. So it's pretty powerful framework to begin with. Also, there are certain other frameworks. There's the Sparrow framework, and then there's the Corona framework to develop the apps. And I think Sparrow is free, but Corona, they charge it like $100 or something, one-time fee or something. But I think the framework or the choice of your framework should not depend on kind of like only the API or the power that it's giving you, but also it should depend on the community. What type of community is around that. So if you go and see games that have been created using Cocos2d, there's a list, a very long list of games that users have actually submitted that they have created Cocos2d. They have a forum where you can go and ask the questions and everything. And the lead developer, I think his name is Ricardo, has been assigned for the company that makes what is that? Farmville, whatever the company is. Zynga, yeah. So hopefully they'll do some cool stuff. All right. So the first thing you need to do is to just go ahead and download the Cocos2d framework, and they have a 1.0.1 version. You just download, unzip it, install it. Once you are done downloading and installing it, it will create a template for you in your Xcode. Okay. So if I go to Xcode, so after you have installed Cocos2d framework, it will automatically create template for you. And if I go and say, okay, new project, you can see that I have iOS application. So this is the one that you actually have right now. If you open your Mac and look at your Xcode, this is the one that you have. You can make business apps using this. And this is the one that has been added after you have successfully installed Cocos2d. And installation is pretty simple. You just double click it and it will just install. So we're going to use the Cocos2d over here because there are three different options. These two are related to physics, okay? And I'll talk about that in Houston Tech Fest actually, not today, but because this is an introduction session. But this is the one that we'll use just to make a simple Cocos2d application, okay?
Does it matter which version of Xcode you're using?
I have tried it on Xcode 4.2. This is Xcode 4.1. So the problem that I was having with 4.2, it didn't have any problem with Cocos2d. I made the complete game using 4.2. It was having problem publishing the game to the App Store. It was always saying something about ARM V6 processor or something.
Well, that's the email you sent.
Yeah, and this was a bug in 4.2, so I just reverted back to 4.1, just like that, went to the App Store, approved, yeah. So we'll start with the basic, and maybe at the end I can show you some of the games that you can actually develop. I have actually developed using Cocos2d. You get some idea how powerful it is. there are three different concepts in Cocos2d. It's a scene, scenes, layers, and sprites. So you can think of scene as something like a movie scene, okay? So you have a scene where some action is going on, you have a romantic scene, you have a comedy scene, so some sort of a scene, okay? And so that's like one notion of the game. Like in the game, you will have a menu scene, like play a game, rate the app, contact us. That's a menu, okay? Next scene is a game scene. You will actually play the game in that scene. Next scene is a game over scene or a high score scene. Next scene might be, I don't know, some review my app scene or something. So that's a scene. We also have layers. So layers, each scene can have a different layer, okay? So a scene, you might be running a scene that has a background layer displaying a beautiful scenery, but on a layer that is in front, you can have, I don't know, planes flying, and then you can have another layer, just like Photoshop basically, layers. Like you can have a background layer, a foreground layer, and you can go ahead and add different layers. I think we'll just go in 2 levels of layer. One will be the background layer, which will display the background, and one will be the foreground, in which the actual game will actually run. Okay, and the final thing is sprites. Let's see if I have it over here somewhere. CC Sprite, which is a sprite, and sprite is basically anything that is acting on the scene. Like if you are building, I don't know, like an action game, your actual character will be a sprite. If you're building a spaceship game, your spaceship is a sprite. The bullet that it will, or the laser beam or whatever that it will throw, it will be a sprite. Things like that, okay? And you can collide between different sprites, okay? So when you create the basic template, just by going to new project, selecting Cocos2d, it will not create this, it will create something also over here, okay? And when you run it, it will just say hello world, kind of like giving you an idea that you have installed correctly and everything run. Now you can get started with your game. If I run this right now, it's just going to give you a black screen showing basically nothing, basically. All right. So here's a black screen, nothing is displayed. All right. So we're going to make a game, and we're going to call it like a balloon pop. Okay. So there will be a balloon on the screen, and it will be going in random directions. And I have to use my touch. Well, over here I have to use the mouse button, or mouse click, to pop the balloon. Okay. I thought of doing Justin Bieber face or popping it up, but then I said, okay, I don't want to get sued or something. So, all right. So I've already added, some of the things I've already added in this game is, and I'll show you actually later, actually right now, sun and cloud. This is the background that we will use. Let's see the balloon image. Here's the balloon image we'll use, okay? And some of the other things that we will use, I'll tell you as soon as we get there. So you have seen, it displays right now a black background. It doesn't have anything, it's completely, okay, so we need to, the first thing that we need to do is to set up our background to the background image that I have, okay? So what we are going to do is add a sprite, and sprite can act as a background. CC sprite, and we're just going to say background, and it has different options. One of the options is sprite with a file. Do we have a file that can act as a sprite? So we do have a file, and it is called sun and clouds.png. Okay. So we created the scene. This is necessary. You have to create the scene because, or else it won't know where to display. We created the layer. Now the layer over here is hello world layer. Why? Because we have a class which inherits from CC layer. Okay. So we're creating the same layer inside pretty much the same method that is exposed by this layer. So scene is derived from CC scene. This is just a class of Cocos2d. And a layer is inherit from CC layer. Sprite inherit from CC sprite. Okay. So we created a background as a CC sprite. It's a sprite, so we can actually place it on our page. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to add that to the layer. Why not to the scene? Well, scene usually adds layers, and then layers add the sprites. That's why. Okay. Let's see. So let's run this. And you will see the image displayed, but it's not really displayed correctly. It's kind of like on the left-hand side, and this image is designed to fit 320 by 480. So if you tilt or if you see it in your iPad, it will not look correctly, unless your application is you have to do a 2x, that 2x, and then it will fill up part of the screen. But this image is designed to fit 320 by 480, which is kind of like the dimensions of this iPhone right now, but it's not fitting properly. It's on to the lower left corner. Okay, and also you can see over here, it's a frame rate going on. Now this is something that Cocos2d, when you create a project, they show you this. You can turn it off, by the way, but they show you this frame rate so that you will have an idea that how fast your application is running. And it's a very good thing, because once you develop a game and you start playing it for the first time, you say, okay, I'm running at 60 frames per second, I can just submit it to the App Store. Okay, let's restart it again. Oh, it's 40, I can still submit it, I guess. Oh, let's restart playing the game again. Oh, it's 20, and then it's 10, and then it's like crashed, okay? And this happened to me. Like, if you run the game multiple times, it kills the frame rate, and soon, like after like 10 tries or something, it reached to a point that you cannot really play the game. So let's fix this issue. We're going to put the background so that it fills a complete screen. There are multiple ways of doing this. What I like to do is I just like to set the anchor point. And I think anchor point is kind of like where you put your anchor and it will start from that location and onwards. So I'm just going to put my anchor point to 0, 0. Okay? So if I run this, so now we have the complete background as we like it. It's 320 by 480, and we can see basically it's displayed on the page or displayed on the iPhone. So that part is done. We're done with that. Next part is to add a sprite. So we will add a balloon to our game, okay? And if you go over here, what I have done is I have exposed the balloon as an instance variable, or as a field basically, okay? So I don't need that, but I don't think I need that. Most of the people, or some of the people, will actually expose whatever they have on the field as a property, okay? For Cocos2d, it's not really necessary, because anything you add to the layer will be auto-released. So it will not really consume any memory. You don't have to think about releasing memory, because the layer is auto-released, which means that when it's done processing, it will release itself. Or Cocos2d framework will release the memory itself. You don't have to. If, however, I will do this, and I will use this balloon, which is a property, then I am responsible for releasing the memory, because I've said, hey, retain the memory, and I will be responsible for that, okay? So let's not do this. I have exposed the CC sprite as a balloon because I will be using it in different methods in this particular code. All right, so let's go ahead and create this balloon, and then it's also a CC sprite. And the image that we are going to use is balloon.png. And once you're done, you can simply add it. Now, self is basically whatever class you are in, and if you check, we are in the Hello World layer class, which is actually a layer, CC layer. So you're adding whenever you say self, it will direct to the class, kind of like this in JavaScript or whatever that is in this in C# or me in VB.NET, right? So we're going to add a balloon. And that's it. It's that simple. Now the balloon is added to your layer. Oops.
Your synthesizer is a property you get rid of.
Oh, all right. Here we go. Oh, that's me. All right. Thanks. So we added the balloon, but we cannot really see the balloon, and the reason is balloon is added to the same Z index where the background is added. So it is actually added, but you cannot really see it. So when adding the balloon, what we can do is we can say, hey, Z index, put it at 1, because the default Z index is 0 where the background exists. So the background is over here, so we need to display the balloon over here in the front, not in the back or in the same layer. Okay. Another, I think, good idea will be to set the background to -1 maybe, so that you can add different things at 0 index and it will appear instead of doing this. But let's do this and see where the balloon appears. So the balloon is appearing now, if you see at the lower left-hand corner, but it's not really appearing at the correct position. And by the way, in Cocos2d, the coordinates start from over here. So this part, lower left corner is 0, 0. But if you are programming in OpenGL, this part is 0, 0. So if you are using, I don't know, Core Motion or whatever the libraries they have, so frames and all that stuff. So how do we center the balloon? Pretty simple. Balloon dot position equal to CCP, which basically is coordinate system. I don't know what it returns, like a frame or the position. Okay. This is just to center. This is.
Is that the one that does the coordinate conversion for you?
Yeah.
So you would set it like you're used to it.
Yeah. So this will do that. So 320 divided by 2, we're going to place it in the middle, and 480 divided by 2. All right.
So it grabs the center of your balloon.
Center of the balloon, and it will just put it there. Yeah. So here we go. So now our balloon is in the center of the screen, but there's a problem. Okay. Well, if you just plan to release it on the iPhone, it's okay. You can see the balloon is in the center of the screen. But let me go ahead and change this to an iPhone and iPad device. Okay. And let me then use the iPad simulator. Now, when you see the iPad simulator run up, of course the image is very small. The image, I'm not scaling up the image, so it will look a little bit weird, but you will also see the balloon is not really centered on the screen. It's 320 by, what is it? I thought I said that. Not sure why it's opening in that. It should open in the whole window, I
Double
guess.
it, down the bottom right. Go back to your simulator and hit the ×2.
Oh no, I mean, yeah, that's for it. If I hit ×2, it will look kind of okay, even on the iPad, but it shouldn't look okay on the iPad. Let's see. I don't know why it's not running iPad. There's some problem with this, I guess. So when you make a native iPad application, it shouldn't have the 2x. Okay, it should just run, and it should do it like this, just by setting it to iPhone and iPad. Oh, maybe I have to do it target. So here we go. Let's see now. Alright. So now you can see, just forget about the background image because that is designed for 320 by 480. If you are deploying on 2 devices, you must have 2 different resolutions. One 320 by 480 and one for the iPad. But look at the balloon. It's displayed at 320 divided by 2 and 480 divided by 2, which is kind of like on the left hand side. Yes?
Is there a reason you would, when you're choosing what to develop for, you would only choose iPhone or only choose iPad instead of, I mean, I understand why you want to make it iPad only, but if you just choose the iPhone, it won't run on an iPad, is that what
No. If you choose iPhone, let me actually do that. So by default, it runs, the iPhone is selected, but let's see this. Okay. So I selected to select the simulator also. Well, no, I don't have to select the simulator. Let's do that. So now I selected iPhone. Okay, and of course everything you make in for the Apple iStore or the Apple Store, it has to run on the iPhone and iPad. But you don't, if you don't own an iPad, you don't really have to worry about it because it will run on the iPad. If I design my app and I put it, I will be running, or this app is targeted for iPhone, it will look like this on the iPad, exactly like this. Small, okay, and then you say 2x, and the whole resolution thing is kind of mess up because the image is going kind of like, you know.
Why did they give you an option then of iPhone only? That's what I'm asking.
Well, they give you an option for iPhone if you only want to develop for the iPhone.
But it can't play on the iPad.
It will play on the iPad. Everything will run on the iPad. It will just not look that good. But if I select this, instead of iPhone, I will say iPhone and iPad. That means I'm telling the Xcode that now my app is universal. I have separate images for iPad. I have separate images for iPhone. And don't scale up anything, and it will give me highest resolution possible.
Okay, that answers my
All right. So we are only developing for the iPhone, so I'm just going to select that. It really depends. I mean, if you want to push out 2 versions, charge more for the iPhone or whatever. There are some applications that where you charge more for the iPad because it takes. I think the image work is kind of expensive to make for that. So the problem is we have hard coded these things, and this is not nice. Okay. So if you go and see the header file, I have declared a CG size, which is CG size means basically it will tell me the size of the screen. Okay, it will hold the point coordinates, and what I'm going to do is over here, window size equal to CC director. Director is usually the director of the scene. Okay, and it holds some I would say global information. So now I have the size over here. I get the size. If the app is running on the iPhone, it will give me 320 by 480. If the app is running on iPad, it will give me whatever coordinates are that. And then I can use that instead of window size dot width divided by 2 and window size dot height divided by 2. So this will make the balloon center on the iPhone, and let's go ahead and if I select iPad, it also centers on the iPad. Okay. So always use. There are some situations, even I mean, when I'm coding, there are some situations that it's very hard to determine the position, and you have to do a lot of calculation to get to a point where you want to display. And sometimes you do use like hard-coded 20 or 30 pixels or points basically. But it's, you know, the best thing is if not to do that and use some calculation to find out that particular space on the screen instead of hard-coding it. So what's next step? So we have added on the center of the screen. Let's actually move the balloon. All right. So there are different options of moving it. We are going to say balloon, and you can see how simple it is. Run action. Run action means that we're going to perform a movement action on it, and then we can say a different kind of action. We have like move by, move to, I think it's called faded and all that stuff. So let's go ahead and say that. And action with duration, how much time the action will actually run. CCP, coordinates where it will actually go. I'm just going to say 100, 100. Run this. 2. So let's go ahead and run it on the iPhone. So you can see it's moving, you know, from center position to the 100, 100 or whatever we told it to. And you can also, of course, change the duration that it will take to reach the destination, or the total time of this movement or action. So now the balloon is moving kind of like in a slow manner. It will take maybe 5 seconds to get there. Yeah, and it's broken from over here for some reason. But there are also different actions that you can use. So I can also say balloon run action cc rotate by, and then how much time that will take, say 5, and how many degrees it will rotate, 360 degrees. So now the balloon is moving and it's also rotating at the same time. Okay. Now there are times when you need to find out when your animation actually ended. So if it ends, you can, I don't know, like if you're firing a bullet from a spaceship and it hits something or it goes off the screen, you want to do something, or you just want to know that when the animation ended and I can maybe do something about it. Okay. For that, we use, let's say this is a move to action. So I'm just going to get all the values into the variables, and then we're going to use another action called CC sequence, where you can sequence your events or sequence your actions. So I'm just going to say CC, I wonder if I can just copy paste this. That's the same thing. And this will be rotate by action, and then we can simply copy this. So all I'm doing right now is moving the values into a variable. ID means that I don't really know the type. So if you have a custom action, it can move it over here also. Okay, what else? Okay. And now let's see the CC move action, CC sequence. So CC sequence, as the name actually suggests, it's a sequence of events, sequence of actions that will take place. So you can just feed it the number of actions that you want to happen. So I'm just going to say, okay, the first action is move to action, then please perform rotate by action, and then perform a callback. And you can name a better name, I guess, but we're just going to make a callback function over here. So this will be a function. So this callback thing will be triggered when both of these actions are done. And there are different ways of calling it. There is a CC call func, CC call func_n. CC call function is, which is this one, is it will not send any parameters to the function. Okay, sometimes you need to get the object that triggered, or the object on which the action is triggered. So we will use this. We need the object on which the action is triggered. Okay, so we can use this. This will give more information. I think you can send data also out to a function. Well, actually we can use this, but let's see this one. And you need to provide that where your action is going to take place. So action with target, where or in which, on which instance is going to happen. Okay, on which instance is going to take place. I'm just going to say self, because our selector or our method that will be invoked when the actions are finished resides in the same file that I'm working on right now. And here we will define whatever the animation finished. So basically what I'm saying is that action with target self means this current instance, which is the layer. Okay, and method that you will fire when all the actions are finished is animation finish method. We don't have an animation finish method, so no problem. We're just going to make animation finished. Now, as I said, CC func_n pass in a variable which will hold actually the object on which the action is triggered. So it will hold what? Balloon. Okay, but we don't really need that because we are already holding a balloon in a field. So let's actually print out this animation. And I always get this thing wrong. Let's see. I mean, we can fix it later. But the arguments, I guess. But let's see. Here we go. So now it's firing in sequence. You can see it's not doing two things at the same time. And here we go. On the screen you can see animation finished. So that function did fire when the animation finished. But the problem is what? First it moved to a particular position. First the balloon moved from the center position to the left hand corner, and then it started rotating, which is not really the correct behavior of a balloon, right? I mean, it should move as well as rotate at the same time. And why it happened? It happened because we're using a CC sequence. It's going to trigger the move action, and then when move action is finished, it's going to trigger the rotate action. You can fix this by spawn action. Now spawn action, CC spawn. Spawn action will allow multiple actions to be triggered at the same time. That's what spawn action does. So we are going to say move to action, comma, rotate by action, and pretty much the same thing as sequence, and we are going to remove these two and just put in the spawn action. Okay, so now it's the spawn action responsibility to spawn two different actions at the same time, two different actions being move action as well as the rotate action. And now you can see it's kind of like the behavior of a balloon. It's moving as well as it's rotating at the same time. But we want to do this infinitely for our balloon pop app. The basic idea of the app or the game is that the balloon will be moving from one random position to another, and then to another and to another, and it will only stop when you actually click on the balloon or pop the balloon. Okay, so how can we do this infinitely? Well, let's actually introduce a method. We could just say start animation, and in this method animation finish, we are just going to call self start method. Again, self is the layer that I'm working on. It should fire, but for the heck of it, I'll just go over here and declare start animation. In the header file, it was complaining that it couldn't find the definition. Well, it's still complaining.
You have them out of order, probably.
Yeah, if I declare it, but yeah. So the start animation will be fired when your animation will be finished. So we have to trigger another animation, okay? And I'm going to do a bad thing over here. I'm just going to copy paste code. You shouldn't do that. But before I do that, I need some random coordinates on the screen. So let's say integer x equal to arg for random, and we are going to generate a random number between 0 and 319 something. And arg for random for y coordinate and 480. So we have two random coordinates on the screen now, okay, and we want to move. The only thing that will change is the move to action, because rotate doesn't really it has no effect on the x and y coordinates, and everything else looks pretty okay. So let's run this. For some reason the balloon is way too big, but so here we go. So now the balloon is moving in random directions, and it's not going to stop, because once the animation is stopped, it triggers a new animation on the random coordinates, and then it triggers a new animation. It just keeps going on and on and on. So now we need to move on and code something that will pop the balloon. CC touches begin event. So this event will be triggered when you touch on the screen. Okay, and this is some code I never, I don't remember this code, but so that's why I copy pasted it. And the location part is important part, because location part will give you where you touch on the screen. Okay, so if you touched it on the middle, it will say something like 320. I mean, not 320, but whatever the middle is, 320 divided by 2, 480 divided by 2, and something like that. Okay.
Hey, Azam.
Yeah.
Some of the presenters having trouble connecting to the Wi-Fi. So if you guys are on it and don't need to be on it, if you could disconnect, that'd be great. Thanks.
All right. So before we implement the touches begin event, touches are not recognized by this application. Okay, so we need to enable that, and it's pretty simple. It's just one line of code. We'll just go over here. Is touch enabled? Yes. They should just have this by default. I don't know why they just don't have this by default. But is touch enabled? Yes. So now this event will be triggered when you touch on the iPhone screen. Okay. And what do we need now? Now there are many different ways of finding that if you have actually touched on the balloon. There is a rectangle intersect method built already into the framework. I like to use the Pythagoras theorem, which we learned in like, I don't know, 9th grade or high school or something. Okay, and I'm just going to use that. So float distance, and there is already a method that will return you the hypotenuse, which is the distance, perpendicular square plus base square, and I think you take the root of it. So there's already a method over here, hypotenuse function. Okay, so you just feed in the values and get the result. So over here we're going to say location.x minus which is balloon.position.x and location dot, and it will do the square by itself. Balloon dot position dot y. Now the balloon is a little bit big. Let me actually go and say that the balloon shouldn't be that big. So we're going to say set scale, and I'm just going to cut the balloon in half. Okay, let's run this and see the balloon is smaller or not. So now the balloon is smaller. You shouldn't do that. No, don't do this. If you need a smaller balloon, use a smaller image. Okay, it does affect, and I think you can actually see now it's, when it shrinks, it's not really a good idea to do that. But for our example, this is the fastest way to kind of do it. Or I have to go to the internet and search for a smaller balloon, so you don't want to do that. So here we go. If the distance is less than equal to 25, which means that if the person has really touched the balloon, not like on the side or something, but has really touched the balloon, then we need to fire this particular method. And we can actually see over here, we can say collision detected, or whatever you want to say. Collision detected.
So there's no way to tell if they touched the sprite? If you have a weird shaped sprite that they...
If you have a weird shaped sprite, then you only, well, there are a couple of ways. You can use the rectangle intersect. That will work out for that particular reason. I haven't used that function. What it does, it basically, if you even have a weird shaped sprite, it will just draw a rectangle around it. Okay, and even then, I mean, if you click on it, it won't be the exact thing. There are some frameworks, but those are physics frameworks. One is called a physics editor, and that will draw a polygon around the sprite that you have, and that will be the exact match. So if you have a flower vase, which is like a like a weird thing like this, it will draw the exact coordinates to put all the points together, and it will be the exact match. Yeah. Even so exact that if you have the physics application and if the flower vase actually falls, it will behave like a flower vase. It will not behave like a block is falling or something like that. And pretty cool software. It's like, I don't know, like $9-10, maybe $5-6 or something. Very good software. But that's for physics applications. Okay, so let's run this, and we'll look at the console over here. So here we go. If I touch somewhere over here, nothing happens. If I touch the balloon, you can see it says touch detected. Now there are multiple things we can do when the touch actually happens. We're going to do something really cool, but first let's do something lame. We're just going to scale up the balloon, run action, and as you can see there are different actions, CC scale, there we go, scale by. And we are just going to make the balloon bigger when the balloon is touched. Scale really fast and scale like 2 times. Sometimes you just have to click on the simulator to run it. Okay, so here we go. So it kind of, it's going big and bigger and bigger. But if I click over here, it's not going to grow any big because the point where I'm checking that it's less than 25 is kind of like in the center. So this was pretty lame, I know, but let's actually fix this up. We are going to use a particle system, and this is pretty awesome. What particle system is, well, it's the small, you cannot access individual particles. I don't think, right now you cannot access individual particles, but when many of the particles are joined together, they create a very awesome effect, okay? And I think I can only tell you by creating it, okay? And there are different different systems that you can use, and it's pretty easy to implement. If you need more systems, more particle effects, then you can download Particle Designer. I'll show you Particle Designer also. We have time. Here we go. CC particle, and there are different particles that you can see. Explosion, fire, firebug, flower, galaxy, meteor, the rain, smoke, snow, spiral, sun, and blah blah blah. If, however, none of these particles meet your needs, you can download Particle Designer for $10 or something, and you can create your own effect. And I'll show you right after this. Okay. So particle explosion, CC particle explosion, allocation of memory, and then initialize it. Now, I want to do this particle effect wherever the person clicks, okay? So it will have the same kind of like the position, and everything, CC sprite, CC layer, and everything's derived from CC node. So most of them have the same properties like position and all of that. Balloon.position. And then I'm going to say self add child. I'm adding the particle effect. Position is very important over here. Position is the same position of the balloon because we want the effect to be at the same position on the screen. And balloon, since balloon is burst now, we are just going to remove the balloon. Remove child, which is balloon, and please clean it up also, which means like remove the memory, release the memory. Alright. Let's run this now. So, and you can see now the balloon actually, well, I don't have anything else, I have any more balloons, but if you have multiple balloons, you can actually do that. Okay? I don't know why it said bad access. I'm not doing a bad access. Should be okay. You have to check this code. I think it's not really cleaning it up. I think there's some other lines you need to do to clean it up. But anyways, so the balloon actually popped. Now there are different files that you need to add for this to work. If you go and download Cocos2d framework, they have a sample test basically in their folder. It's called like particle system test or something, and they have some files like fire.png. It's a white thing over here. I don't know if you can see it. It's some faded out thing that they use. Fire.pvr. It's like this is the main file that you need to add into your resources folder because that will create the pop effect or something. All right. If you don't add the file, it will be just blocks. When you click on it, it will be just blocks exploding. So we can use the different effects over here. I mean, the only problem is you might not be able to see it because it's actually, I have to turn the background off because most of the effects you are not able to see it on a white background. Alright. CC particle fire. particle sun. I like particle sun. Where's particle sun? Here we go. Particle sun. And pretty much the code is same. So it kind of like creates a sun over there. Okay, and you can have CC particle fire and CC particle fire will, or CC particle meteor is also very good, or galaxy, I think this one. It creates like a galaxy when you click. But however, I mean, if all of these 8-9 effects don't meet your needs, okay, if you're building really something that you have to have certain, you know, particle effect, download Particle Designer. Here we go, to minimize this, I guess. So this is Particle Designer, available for, I don't know, it's like very cheap, like maybe $10 or $15 or something, or maybe less than that, I guess. And you can see these are the particle effects submitted by the users, and there's a long list actually, see? And you can change any of those, okay? So let's say if you want this part, and you can, when I click on it, you can actually see it over here, run the loop. So, okay, here we go. So this effect you can use like a rainfall, a comet, this is pretty cool, a snowfall effect. There are multiple effects, and I think if you double click on it, it will go to the properties, and you can change, you know, different type of things, maximum particles and lifespan and all that stuff. So the possibilities are pretty much endless. You know, you can, how do I go back now? I mean, the list is just way long, you know? It just goes on and on and on. What is that? Oil spill effect. There are just too many effects. And you can tweak all of them just by double clicking on it. Like a smoke effect or something going on. Okay, so we have done the explosion, okay, and it sometimes you need to explode something, and what you need is some, like that same object or a different object comes, you know, when you explode that. Like one of the games when I made it for kids for calculation, when you click on an egg, like a chicken egg, it just explodes and little chicks come out, like, you know, it's like in different colors, okay? So what we need to do is set the texture over here. Let's set this to CC particle explosion. Okay, and we are going to set, I think it's a texture, explosion dot texture, CC texture cache. And then basically we're just going to add whatever we want to come out from when we, you know, blow up the balloon. So now we have replaced the texture, like the default texture, with a balloon. So if I pop, these are actually balloon coming out, but I don't know if you can see because it's different colors and they are kind of like shrink together. But these are different balloons coming out from a balloon. Okay. Now the final thing that I like to show you is the how much time we have? That we started 9:15.
Half hour more. Yeah,
Half hour more.
30.
Okay, so I think I'll be done in like 10 minutes, and I can show you some of the apps that you can design using Cocos2d. The final thing is the home screen. Okay, let's go over here and change it. So whenever you want to change the screen, which will run the first time, you have to go to the app delegate file. Okay, and that will allow you to change the screen. That will, yeah.
Including the splash screen, that's how Cocos2d splash screen is when you run it.
So for that, yeah, I'll show you how to change that also. That's actually very simple also. because I've seen some apps that they on the App Store, and when you download it, it shows that Cocos2d app screen. I mean, come on, it's like you can just change it. It's like really, it's not that hard. Okay, so this is the home layer. Now, home layer is the layer which will display a menu. So here's a simple menu. You know, we're using the same background, and I think if I click on it, it will run the game. So how we design the home layer? So first of all, first thing that you need to look up is the menu system over here. Okay, so we have a CC menu item font, which of course suggests that we will be using a font file or a different font to create the menu. But you have different options over here: CC menu item image, menu item sprite. So you can use different things to create a menu. You can use an image, you can use a font. I always use a font because because it's much easier, and I'm not a graphic artist. And there's a software from the same guy, from the same people who designed Particle Designer. Where is that software? It's called Glip Designer. It was here. Where is it? Here we go. And this will allow you to create fonts really quickly and really cool. So here's the font, and you can simply click on it. Unfortunately, for legal reasons, you cannot share the fonts with other people. You know, that's what I recorded this guy. I mean, I interviewed this guy on my podcast, Cocos2d podcast, and that's one of the questions I asked. Hey, in Particle Designer, people can share particle effects, and it's much easier for me to just go and grab a particle effect that I need. But why can't I do the same thing for the fonts? And he said it's because of legal reasons. Some of the fonts are, you know, legal with different companies. Some companies produce that fonts, and you cannot really share those fonts. So you can see it's pretty easy to develop anything. I mean, any font. Let's say I select something like, okay, here it is. And if I want to change gradient, change color, it's pretty simple, right? You can change whatever, and then you just export it. It will create two files. It will create a PNG file, which will have, actually you can preview also, but it will have all the font images basically. And I'll have the file over here somewhere. Here it is. Okay, so these are all the basically the keys that you will use. So it has all the images over there, and this is the font file, which tells you where to fetch that. You don't generate this file. This is generated by the Glip Designer. So I'm using that font file over here. As you can see, Desert Rays FNT, and it's going to find the PNG with the same name, which I already have, which is over here. And when you click, it's going to say Start Game. Start Game is going to go over here and simply replace the current scene with the new scene, which is a Hello World layer. Okay, I'm using this is the preferred approach if you are making labels on the screen, if you are writing text on the screen. I think there's another one, CC menu item font. I think no, not menu item font. No, by creating a label. So this is the recommended way of creating a label. I think there's another way, which is like CC label TTF. Yeah, don't use that. Okay. What happens is that this label is okay if you want to display one-time label only, but if you want to like keep the score, like okay, I pop one balloon 10 points, pop one balloon plus 10, 20 points. If the label is keep on changing, don't use this because it will consume much more memory. It will draw the complete thing again and again and again and again, unless your game, you know, it will eventually basically crash when it runs out of memory. CC label BM font does not do that, okay? It already knows the fonts because you're providing it in a PNG file right over here and the font file, so it knows how to draw it, okay? So if I run this, of course, you've already seen it. It's basically it's a menu screen, play, and you can add other items over here, contact us or rate our app or high score, blah, blah, blah. And when it runs, it pretty much does this, okay? For default screen, let me actually run it. There we go. So we see the Cocos2d screen right now, and then the game, so the splash screen is Cocos2d, and we want to replace it. Not sure why people don't replace it. All you need to do is to replace the default.png image, and that's it. That will be done. Like let's see if I even have a default. I can show it to you. I mean, it's just drag and drop in the image, and you're done. Let's say ABC pop. You know, I mean, if I want to replace this with this image, what I'll do is I'll just go over there. I'll say, okay, delete, and I'll say, okay, let's delete this file, and where's the image? It has to be default.png, okay? Icon also, let me show you also how to change the icon. So we have replaced the default with ABC pop, although the game name is balloon pop. Here we go, so we changed it. All right, so it's that simple. If you want to change the icon, because let's see, here we go. Right now it's a Cocos2d icon right now. Okay, you don't want Cocos2d icon, of course. You can change it, just replace the icon file over here. And they have multiple things actually. I think this one should be for retina display. Oh, maybe this one. Well, this one should be retina display. This one is for the main one. And they also have the artwork. This will appear in the iTunes, so you can replace that. Some of the games, I think that I'm pretty much done, because this was kind of like a basic introduction, but some of the games I can show you. Let's see. I cannot, no. The problem is this game uses the accelerometer, so does it have the file to run? Yeah, well, it will run, but I won't be able to control it. But you can control your simulator using an accelerometer, okay? You can. Just download iSimulate, you just hook up their framework, and I can sit over here and I can tilt my iPhone and it will work on this. Okay, this is good for recording. If you want to record your game, well, I haven't found a good way to record, but there is a way, it's a software on Cydia, it's called Display Recorder. It's usually for recording a business app, okay, not really games, because game requires so much power. So I can record this, but the result is not as good. So it's for kids, addition, subtraction, and I don't really have I can't really tilt right now, of course, but eventually, but this is a game that you can develop most probably in like 10 days or 7 days, or maybe less. Not more than 7 or 10 days, okay? And if you click on it, it will just say pause, because you're using the accelerometer to basically create the game or to move, okay? And this is available in App Store actually from yesterday. So a little bit of physics games, and I have a session in Houston Tech Fest about creating physics games. So you can check out that, but I don't know if I have that game. Let's see. I don't even remember the name correctly. So many games over here. It's called Monkeys, but it's not really monkeys. Nothing to do with the monkey. I think it's this. I haven't actually ran that for a very long time. Where's the sound not coming? If you want to use 3D, there's a Cocos2d game that you can, Cocos2d framework that you can use to create Cocos2d game. So this is of course also another game for, and it has like a little bit of physics effects. So this was made in Cocos2d plus Space Manager framework, which I'll be discussing in Houston Tech Fest. It's a physics framework, and you basically have to calculate 1 plus 3 is 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. If you say 5x, you can just blast one out. Something like that. And you get points and all that stuff. But
you make that?
Yeah, I mean graphics, I don't make graphics, so now all of the graphics that you see all in my games, I will never make anything. But I go to this well, there are different websites, but if you go to Inkscape, and I don't even use Inkscape because I'm not a graphic artist. Inkscape is basically a software for Macintosh. I don't know if it's for Windows or not, but it's for Macs. It's kind of like a really trimmed down version of the Illustrator, really trimmed down. I've used Illustrator and I mean, I'm not a graphic artist, so I don't understand that. But this has much fewer options, so I don't get confused. And it's much easier to use Inkscape than Photoshop or Illustrator. Because Illustrator, Photoshop, these are all for really professional people. I mean, not for graphic art, I mean, not for a developer. And if I go to this clip art, it's the open clip art website. All they want is, I mean, you can take the clip art from there, but all they want is kind of like credit on their screen, on your screen. For music and sounds, you can go to freesound.org and you can get all the sounds that you need. You have to search for a while because it's a pretty big repository that they have. Okay, yeah, resources, I'm sorry. Resources, and you can write it down. If I have to select just one resource to run Cocos2d or iPhone development, just one, it has to be Raven Village. Period. Okay? No books, nothing. This is the only resource. And I run my own website. But this is the resource that you will go to. Okay? And this guy come up with a book also. Here is a book, Learning Cocos2d. The great thing about this, it's color. And it's only like 30 bucks or something. 24 bucks. Pretty good book in which he goes on and pretty much covers everything. It's like 600 pages. If you want to get started with, well, I think this is also a good book to get started, but I like another book also, which is this one, Beginner's Guide. They made kind of like a similar game, like a space game that I made, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty simple to follow, and it has like 4 games that they do. Other book which is kind of like a little bit for I would say advanced developers. This is my co-host Stefan Atterheim, and he wrote this book. It's a little bit advanced and it goes really into the depth of everything like textures and size and all this cool stuff. If you want to follow us on our podcast, and I'll write a post, and this is my website actually, and just go to mobile development, and I'll have a link like maybe tomorrow or something about this session, and I'll post all the links over there. But you can see like there are a lot of Cocos2d articles starting from like over here, and it goes on till there. If you are a video person, if you want to see videos, I'm also doing kind of slowly, doing sessions. What is that? Alright, so here we go, videos. So if you just go and search Azam Sharp, you will find my channel. And it goes, I think we are on part number 16 where I'm introducing Space Manager, but it goes to part number 1. Where it is? So, and it starts from the very beginning. Cocos2d introduction, scenes, layers, sprites, actions, collision detection, and it goes on part 5, part 6, part 7, part 16. And it's all HD, so if I just play this, I'm not sure what was going on something. You can just go 720p, go to full screen. So, you know, it's a good quality videos, and I go through pretty much, you know, everything. Cocos2d podcast, kind of like a bi-weekly podcast. You can search it on iTunes. Last time we did marketing your iPhone app, and it covers iPhone Game Kit and earning additional income through iAds, and different topics kind of like every 2 weeks. I think that's pretty much it. You have any questions? Yeah.
When you did the example, you put most of your code in the init method.
Yeah.
Is that what you standardly do with Cocos2d? Is that was just for the ease of the demo?
For all the code, you won't put it in the init method. What I usually do is I create a separate class called environment, and it just calls environment.setup, and it will set up the environment like a background and initial sprites on the page and the score and everything. But that init method will be fired, of course, when the layer is initialized. So you should do all your setup things in that method, not in that method. I don't mean like in that method, like writing all the code there, but you should call your classes from inside that method, yes. And here we have like different, this guy also wrote a very good software, level helper, sprite helper. I'll cover that in different tech fest. Let me see if I have. I think that's pretty much all the. I just downloaded this keynote. I don't know how to use it. So yeah, this, if I have to choose one, once again, it's raywenderlich.com. This guy just writes so detailed tutorials. Cocos2d-iphone.org. This is the main website where you will go and ask questions, download the framework, see the games developed in Cocos2d. Ion Coding is my website. I also write articles about that. And then if you want to view the videos, Azam YouTube channel, you can check out that. And there's another guy, the New Boston. He also did some videos on Cocos2d and iPhone development. You can check him out. It's also very good. And Learning Cocos2d book. This is by Ray Wenderlich. Very good book. 600 pages, colored. And yeah, if you have any questions, just email me, follow me on Twitter, and I will post kind of like a review, like a summary of this session and all the links with it. And I think I will also place this one. I have some online repositories, like the car racing, the car game that you see. It's called Desert Race. You can view the whole code. Space Demon is a spaceship game. They're not available on iTunes or anything. This is just kind of open source. So I can learn, people can learn. Green Cities is an iPhone project. It will just plot on the map all the green cities. And for some reason, LA is like number 1. I mean, number 2 or number 3. Jog Buddy is the application I'm currently working on. It's basically plots where you are jogging outside in the street. Okay. So all the code is available. Download it, use it, and not really. That's pretty much it. Thanks for attending the session. If you have questions, I'm here.
Is the Cocos3d you said, is that still, I mean, it's 3-dimensional, but it still is on like a 2D surface?
I haven't used it, but let's see that they might have some demos or something. It's not 2.5D, it is 3D, yeah. So let's see this. Ben will kill me for using the bandwidth, but come on. Yeah, usually they just show like a text rotating or something. But I know that they had some. Okay, here we go. This should be good. It's like a, yeah. So it is kind of 3D. See?
Yeah.
I don't know how much. I mean, how 3D games do it on an iPhone or something. I mean, I don't usually. But if it's, people play 3D games on iPhone, or maybe they do. I don't know. Usually, when you're running a 3D game like a soccer game or a fighting game, I think it consumes really memory and battery life basically because of the intense graphics and all this stuff. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for attending. it.